Good morning, fourth graders. Welcome to your video lesson for fourth grade ELA for the week of June 15th to June 19th. This week we're going to be working on the reading skill of comparing and contrasting. You'll be using two nonfiction texts, Desert People and Life Cycles, to practice this skill of comparing and contrasting. Those texts, Desert People, that's about two groups of people who live in the desert, and it discusses their lives, including their diets, their shelters, and their daily routines. Life Cycles tells about the life cycles of different creatures, including humans, insects, elephants, and even sequoia trees. So think about the words compare and contrast. We've heard these words many times, whether we've been talking about them as a reading skill or talking about them even as a type of nonfiction text structure. When we say that we are comparing, we're going to tell how two things or more are alike. And if we contrast, we tell how two or more things are different. We compare and contrast on a daily basis as we make decisions. In fact, I just did both today when I selected a book to check out from the library. So we have book A and book B. So those are two things that we'd be comparing and contrasting here. Both of those books are science fiction, and that's her favorite genre. Book A has 212 pages, but book B has 486 pages. I might not have the stamina for a book more than 212 pages long. Book A was recommended by a friend, but book B, the cover looks interesting. After comparing and contrasting the two books, I decided to check out book A this time. So both books are science fiction, but book A had 212 pages versus 486 pages, and book A was recommended by a friend, whereas book B, the cover looked interesting. So where do we see a comparison statement here? What do we see that is showing how those books are alike? Remember, compare means to tell how two or more things are alike. So what do you see here that describes how they are alike? You've got it. Both books are science fiction, so that's telling me how they're alike. The other items are telling me what is different about them. Let's talk about basketball and soccer and compare and contrast those two sports. So first, let's try comparing. So how are basketball and soccer alike? A few similarities come to mind. Similarities is another way of saying how something is alike. Both sports use round balls. Dribbling is a skill that is used in both sports. Referees are used in both sports to enforce rules. Okay, so let's try contrasting. How are basketball and soccer different? Well, in soccer, you dribble with your feet, but in basketball, you dribble with your hands. Soccer is played on a field, while basketball is played on a court. In soccer, someone guards the goal. In basketball, no one is allowed to guard the basket. As readers, we compare and contrast as we read. You can compare and contrast many elements within a text. You could compare characters, settings, events, and you can compare and contrast when you're reading fiction or whether you're reading nonfiction. We're going to be practicing this week with nonfiction. So you'll be comparing and contrasting the desert people. So you'll be reading about several groups of desert people and comparing and contrasting them. And in life cycles, you'll be reading about the life cycles of different creatures, and you'll be comparing and contrasting what you read within those texts. But it's important to remember that We compare and contrast all the time, and it's not just a skill for fiction or just nonfiction. In school, there are times when students are asked to read a passage and then write a written response in which they compare and contrast certain elements. Therefore, we're going to practice this skill today, and you're going to be continuing to practice it throughout this week. We're going to start here by reading a passage. When you're at home practicing, you're going to read the assigned text for the day, and your written response in your response log is going to be where you practice your comparing and contrasting. Laura and Brandon were playing a board game while their mom watched the news. It's your turn, Laura told her twin brother. Just a second, I want to watch this, said Brandon. The children paused their game and listened as the news reporter described a horrific tornado that destroyed a town the day before. The news segment was full of images of devastated homeowners walking through the wreckage that was once their homes. At the end of the story, a website was listed for people who wanted to make a donation to help the families affected. How sad, said Brandon. Mom, I want to send some money to help those people, but I only have $2. The yard is full of leaves that need to be raked. I will pay you to rake them up, said Mom. Okay, Brandon thought for a moment. Is it okay if I go around and ask the neighbors if they want me to rake their leaves? I'd be sure to mention that I'm going to send the money I earned to help the people who lost their homes to the tornado. I think that's a wonderful idea, Mom exclaimed. Do you want to help, Laura? Asked Brandon. Nope, raking is too exhausting and we're just kids. The small amount of money we would earn wouldn't help them much anyway. Besides, I'm saving my money for a new shirt. Any money I earn is going toward that, Laura answered. Now let's get back to our game. You've definitely seen this graphic organizer before. This is a Venn diagram, and it's a really helpful planning tool or just a simple tool to help us when we're comparing and contrasting. But if we're writing a written response, then using a Venn diagram is a great way for us to visualize how they're alike and different and use it when we go to write our response. So to use it, you simply draw two circles that overlap, just like you see here. Then you write the two topics that you're going to contrast at the top of the two circles. We are going to be comparing and contrasting the two characters we just read about. When you're comparing and contrasting at home, you may have the names of the groups of people you're comparing and contrasting, or the different life cycles you're comparing and contrasting within that text. In this case, we're comparing and contrasting Brandon and his sister Laura. In the overlapping section in the middle, that's where we list how they are the same. We list how they are different in the other two sections. When you're writing on a Venn diagram, you do not need to write in complete sentences. You can use bullet points or write key important phrases, but you don't have to have long sentences. Well, Brandon and Laura, we know they're the same age. They're twin brother and sister. We know they both play board games. Now, Brandon, we have as a compassionate character, and Laura is kind of self-centered. How do we know that? What in the text told us that? Well, Brandon wanted to rake leaves and spend his time doing something to raise money to help people. Laura did not want to go do something that required work, and she wanted to keep her money for herself. So we also know that Brandon is hardworking, but we could also say from that information that Laura is lazy. Brandon believes that kids can make a difference, and Laura believes that kids are too young to help anyway. Some of these transition words can help when you're writing a response paragraph or an essay, but they also might help you when you're reading within a text. Some comparing words that you might hear are as well as, also, to, similar, or both. Some contrasting words are however, in contrast, on the other hand, while, though or although, whereas, or but or yet. So these are helpful words that will help you when you're writing your response, but again, they can be helpful for you as you read the texts this week. Now let's briefly go over your assignments in your packet. Again, you have two texts, Desert People and Life Cycles. Each day your checklist gives you your assignment. So for today, Monday, June 15th, you're going to be reading Desert People. And then you have your response for today in your response log. Tuesday, you're again reading Desert People and completing Tuesday's response. Wednesday, you will read Life Cycles and complete that response log. Same thing for Thursday, you will also be reading Life Cycles. And then Friday, you will use both texts to find the information requested to write your response log. So comparing and contrasting is not a new skill. That's something we have talked about before and we have practiced it, but it is a very important reading skill for fourth graders and beyond to master because it's going to help you as a reader and a writer. We talk about these reading skills and we teach them more than once because it's very important that we master them and can use them as we read. When we master these comprehension skills, it helps us understand what we read more deeply, which means we can speak better about it, we can write more about it, and we are better able to answer questions about it because we understand it more deeply. I hope you enjoy reading your nonfiction texts this week, and I hope you enjoyed the different topics, and I look forward to reading the different paragraphs you all write and seeing how you've compared and contrasted the different topics within our texts. Have a great week, girls. I will talk to each of you this week, and have a great day.